Hey everyone, Joe G with Touch with the Brush Model Weathering, and welcome to the part 2 of this two-part series of weathering this Athearn Genesis Norfolk Southern SD70. We showed part 1, the basic weathering that we did for the locomotive, and now we're getting really into the nitty-gritty detail work. Like this locomotive has been stored. If you look at the prototype photo, it's been stored for a while, and I believe it was stored in Roanoke, Virginia. A lot of these engines are in storage. And I love the SD70s, and it's a shame that they are, but all are being upgraded, including this locomotive that we are modeling after the prototype. It's being upgraded to, I think, an SD70 ACU. It's the 1800 series, so look forward to seeing it on the road again. But here we are using some fine brushes. This stuff is heavenly when it comes to doing this kind of work. And makes your job so much easier. And using just simple Adidas acrylic white paint and going over and putting some of that fading off of the paint, and the paint chipping away, being in the sun for a long time. Going over the logo, the NS logo itself, and look like the paint is starting to peel off. It just looks more faded. And you go over a few times. And here I use the Q-tip. And Q-tips are good for splotching and really getting into the paint and flattening it in a way. And it just has a certain effect to it. And instead of having all those brush strokes, it really dampens and makes it look like it's part of the model. And then I clean up the edges around the NS, because the NS logo is actually pretty clean for the most part. Now, for this section of the, this side of the locomotive, I have the prototype photo, but on the other side, I don't have a prototype photo. So I really guessed what the engine would probably look like. I did some things similar, yet maybe a little different. Looks a little different on one side. But the clients are usually very good with giving me a photo of the prototype. Sometimes I have to really research it, and sometimes I just can't find anything that looks exactly like the prototype I'm looking for. So there's a lot of creativity, imagination with the other side of the locomotive, as we will see. And here, using the dental pick and a micro brush, and painting over the white lines of the logo, and then I'm coming back with the micro brush and cleaning off the excess. And that's just to really make the logo look faded, instead of doing the entire locomotive. The locomotive, the body itself, is actually pretty clean looking in the photo, but besides the burn marks, you also have the logo is actually all messed up. And who knows how long that engine has been sitting in storage. We all love the SD70s, and here we're using some of that rust and some of that brown powders and light bit of paint in it, just a little bit to represent the rust marks on the NS logo. And over here on the side, there's some burning that was created over time, and paint was chipped off. And there's like 3 lines, and I'm trying to make them look just like the photo. And it's so weird, because you could look on a model and doesn't look right, doesn't look real. But on the model, on the prototype, it looks really, it's the real thing. So this was trial and error when it came to this portion. So you might see me redo a few parts of it, and that's just, it's, you're always learning. And again, sometimes we're our own self-critic and our own poison in a way, because we're artists and we are trying to be perfectionists. So it's the client was very pleased with everything that came out. So I may redo a few times, but just like when you're in school and you are writing a term paper, you have to step away and then come back to the model, and you go, oh, that actually looks really darn good. Or he goes, yeah, that might have to be changed a little bit. So here we're using some more of that awesome white paint, and look, some paint chipping away. It just looks like the prototype. And you can find the prototype photos on Facebook, on my Facebook, as well as my Instagram and Twitter. I do have the comparison photos as the beginning of the video. So here we're going to add some of that I believe it's dark rail brown. I love that color, and that's actually very, very close to the color that's on the locomotive, on that particular part where the battery box is. And these powders are pretty good. I got them in Model Bond store, I believe. I forget where in Pennsylvania. I can never remember the town. And I did a video a few months ago, back in January. If you look back at my YouTube series in January, I did a little tour of the store. But I still have those powders till today. They're awesome. So here we're adding some of that rust over the tan paint. And looks here, I think I redo it a few times, and I go back and I make it darker, and see, I go over it again with that paint because I didn't like the way it was coming out. I don't want to erase it, because if you add layers, then it gives more character, more texture to the part. So in this time I worked on dabbing it with the Q-tip instead of paint. So it looks a little more realistic. And some of the stuff that's being padded on the logo is very subtle. I mean, very, very subtle. You can see just wiping it down. Sometimes works too. So now we're heading out to do the rooftop. The rooftop is very rusty, for what I got from the pictures. The top itself, I had to guess this, so I assume if the whole rooftop of the sod was rusted, most likely most of the rooftop is rusted as well, since it's been sitting there in the sun for a very long time. So I now go back, and that's watercolors. We use those are the same kind of colors I used for the last video for the toaster unit. Now we go to the other side, and see, I added just a whole different just try to be creative and imagine what the other side will look. So obviously there's some burnt spots on the other side with the radiators. I added that on the right side, and as well as towards the cab, I added more of that. And this time I blotched it out more with the NS logo. Logo, not the locomotive. Logo. Now I get into the radiators. I added more black to the radiators, since the radiators were very, 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 very dark in the photo. So I add an extra coat of that to it. And do the same thing here. And to fade out the lines of the logo, I just paint over them, and then I come back with a micro brush, and I go in between the lines. I think here I left one side completely faded out, if I'm not mistaken. I think I maybe done for both. Yeah, certain spots got it. And something simple as that just gives a totally different effect. So now this looks completely faded. I love how it came out. Back with that rail brown to go down on the back of it. And let's go to town with the rail brown, with the dark rail brown powder. I go with that dark rail brown again and go over the radiators. The radiators were pretty dusty. Just represents a little bit of dust and dirt and grime on the radiators, not just black. Because usually when they look black is when the locomotives are in use and they're moving and they're running. You know, they've been sitting here for a while. So, especially this one. The same concept with the top of the roof. I did the same thing with the hood of the locomotive, with the sand not sand gauge, I forgot the name of it, but the sand cap is up there. So instead of using the sponge, I use a Q-tip. Then we're going back, and you can see I added some graffiti. Engines and stored. And this creativity, I used my creativity and imagination on this side, so full steam ahead. And that's what the client said, full steam ahead, and whatever you want. I got a clear green signal to go ahead and do what I want. So I added some graffiti on the fuel tanks and a little bit on the underneath the numbers, and a little more rust to the radiators. Walkways got done with some rust. Rooftop again was all that different color, the watercolors, the ochre, burnt sienna, raw sienna, and yellow ochre. Those are the colors, and they add them all together to get that color. Now going in between the lines to get rid of extra paint, because I went back again. This, like I talked about a term paper. I actually looked at the photo, came back to the model, and realized that all the lines, the black in between the lines, was actually absolutely clean. So I went back and did that, and I actually had to add a little more white on top of the S. I forgot to do that as well. Added some blotchiness to the fuel tanks. The fuel tanks actually were clean as far as not burn marks or stains, but I add a little more touches to it, and it's been faded out. Went back over the NS to make it look like it was just blotched out from the rain, from the fade, from the snow, from the sun. Here we're getting the full locomotive, a cove the dull coat to really tighten everything together. And here's the photos of the finished product. And I think even after this, I actually went back and added some more touches to it. But my gosh, it came out awesome. There's the roof. See how kind of rusty it is, and some blotchiness to it. It's really been sitting there in storage. The cool part is my buddy's going to run it, so it's not like it's going to sit there. But man, it came out nice. A lot of people ask me, man, I love the reflection of your locomotives. Literally, it's just the white box, and I have the locomotive on top of my laptop, and I took the pictures. Normally I don't tell you secrets, but as simple as that, and something as easy as that can make your models really look like fine works of art. Those are all 5 engines completely done, completed, the scale trains and the Athearn Genesis. And I really appreciate everybody checking out. This was a lot of fun to do. You can find me here on Instagram, as well as Facebook, YouTube, of course, and my Railfan X page, and yes, on Twitter. And I meant to mention the Railfan X is my regular photography, rare photography, and other photography, and that's on Facebook as well as Instagram. I want to thank everybody so much for watching. This was absolutely so much fun to weather and create, and I hope everybody enjoys and decides to do this with their models as well. You guys take care. This is Joey G with Touch of the Brush Model Weathering. You have a great week.